Hi guys, welcome back to the Home and Homestead. If you're new, I'm Rebecca. Today we're going to be heading to the kitchen and we're going to prepare a cozy meal that is wonderful on a cold winter's day or on a gray, rainy day. You just want something delicious and to slowly cook in your oven and make your home smell wonderful. We'll be making an apple cider braised pork roast. Now this pork roast will be braised in the oven over a long period of time at a slightly lower temperature with some delicious cooking liquid and fresh herbs. It makes a wonderful cozy meal. So let's head to the kitchen and we get our ingredients together for making our apple cider braised pork roast. Now for preparing our apple cider braised pork roast, we're going to be using a braiser pan or a braising pan. And that's what I have here. It's a cast iron with enamel coating, and this works really wonderful for a recipe like this. If you don't have a braiser pan, you can also use a Dutch oven as long as it has an oven safe lid. So first what we're going to do is brown our pork roast. So I'll be using a pork shoulder roast, and I like to use that because there's some great marbling and that cut of meat works wonderfully for braising. You could also use a pork loin roast, but that is a much leaner cut of meat, so the cook time is going to be about half for that. So what we're going to do is heat up some oil. I just like to use avocado oil. We're just going to heat this oil up so that we can brown our pork shoulder roast. So here I have a 4-pound pork shoulder roast. And what I'm going to do is rub all sides of the pork roast with some seasoning. I like to use an all-American seasoning rub. This is a great dry rub for pork roasts, and it works well for beef too, but I really like it for pork. I'll use this for my ribs, my pork ribs, and other recipes like that. And you just want to generously coat all sides of your pork shoulder roast. And I just do that while the pan is heating up. So here I've seasoned all sides of the pork shoulder roast. But you can use whatever seasoning blend that you prefer for seasoning your pork roast. So now that our pan is nice and warm, I'm going to put our roast right onto here. We're going to brown all the sides. So now I'm just going to brown the pork roast on each side just for a few minutes, and it's a great way to add some extra flavor and help lock in the juices for our shoulder pork roast while it eventually is braising in the oven. So allow this to cook for a few minutes on each of the sides and get this prepared for the next step of the braising. Got some nice color on that first side, so that's what I'm going to do on each of the sides, including the ends of our pork shoulder roast here. And now for the final side that we'll flip it to, and I will have the fat side up. This will be the side up that I'll be cooking it as well. Now that all of the sides have been browned, I'm just going to remove this pork shoulder roast from the heat. We're going to deglaze the pan with some apple cider. I'm going to turn the heat down a bit. We're going to put our pork roast back into this braiser pan. And now we're going to add a few cups of the apple cider, or enough to cover about halfway to a third way up our pork roast. Then we're going to add some fresh herbs. We'll add some sprigs of fresh thyme and fresh rosemary. Usually I like to put it right on top of this roast, but this one's a little bit of a different cut, so it's much taller. So the lid's actually going to rest on it at first, and then as it cooks down, the roast will flatten a bit. So instead I'll just put the fresh herbs onto the sides of our pork roast. And now what we're going to do is bring these cooking liquids up to a simmer. And once they come to a simmer, I'm going to immediately put the lid on our braiser pan and get this into the oven. So I'm going to preheat the oven to 325 degrees and we'll allow this cooking liquid to come up to a simmer. All right, so now the cooking liquid has come to a simmer. So I'm going to put the lid on and we'll get this into the oven to braise. This is going to braise at 325 degrees for 1 hour per pound. This is a 4-pound shoulder roast, so this will cook 1 hour a pound, so about 4 hours. If you're using a pork loin roast, I would cut that in half, so do about 30 minutes a pound. But every hour I'm going to check it, add some more apple cider to make sure that it maintains that cooking liquid. And I also have cut up 1 onion into thicker slices, and I'm going to add that for the last hour or so of braising. And we're looking for it'll be nice and tender and cooked down in about 190 to 200 degrees Fahrenheit by testing with the thermometer. So let's get this pork shoulder roast into the oven to braise at 325 degrees for about 1 hour a pound. All right, our pork shoulder roast has been braising for about 1 hour, so I'm going to open up the oven, remove the lid. We'll add some more of that apple cider so we can keep that cooking liquid level nice so we have a tender and moist result. The lid back on. We want it to have a nice seal, so I'll just put some foil back over and we'll continue cooking. We'll add another hour, then we'll come back again and I'll add some more liquid and some onions and we'll see how our pork roast is braising. All right, we're at the 2nd hour of cook time for our apple cider braised pork roast here. Let's remove that lid again. We'll add some more of that apple cider. And I'll also add that onion that I cut into thick slices, and I'll place the onion off to the side. Let's add some more apple cider. It's about half of the cooking liquid cooks down each hour. Now we'll add the lid. And our foil. Continue to braise. All right, so we're at 1 hour left on the potential cook time. And this is when I like to check the temperature and see if we might be finished already. So we'll remove the lid. And this is smelling wonderful. So let me get a thermometer in here. Yep, we're finished here. Temperature's great. Some lovely color on our pork roast here. So now what I'm going to do is remove this from the oven and allow this to rest for at least a half hour. Then we can cut into this and have a closer look at our apple cider braised pork roast that we have been slowly braising in the oven to get some wonderful flavor for our cozy meal. All right, here we have our apple cider braised pork roast. And again, this is a shoulder pork roast. So this has been slowly braising in the oven and it took 3 hours to get to this point. We have some wonderful caramelized color on the outer surface of the pork roast and has a lovely bark. So now this roast has been allowed to rest for about a half hour so we can cut into it. Tender. It just kind of falls away, nice and juicy. So here I have some of the pork roast cut. It's nice and juicy with that outer crispy area or that bark that's really quite delicious on a pork roast. Now we also have some of that cooking liquid, and you can either continue to reduce it down, maybe pour some over the top. You can also thicken it up with some cornstarch and make a lovely gravy. The apple cider and the outer rub that we put on the roast have really infused into this pork roast, and then with the fresh herbs, the rosemary and the thyme, this has some wonderful cozy flavor to it as well. So if you're looking for a nice savory meal that you can cook perhaps on a cold winter day or a gray rainy day and you just want something cozy to enjoy for a meal, I hope you consider braising as an option, and especially with the apple cider braised pork roast. If you can find a pork shoulder roast, those work the best, but you could also do a pork loin roast, but I would just cut that cook time in half because it's a much more lean piece of meat and you don't want it to get tough. As you can see, the pork shoulder roast has some wonderful juicy and tender result, and it's a great way to prepare a pork roast. If you like more ideas or inspiration on other homemade meals, or perhaps cozy dinners, be sure to check out my recipes in the kitchen playlist. If you're looking for easy meals, you can check out my playlist on the topic where I have air fryer, slow cooker, and instant pot recipes as well. So if you're new to the channel or haven't done so yet, I'd really appreciate it if you would subscribe. So please be sure to hit that subscribe button below if you haven't done so yet, and continue to watch my channel, The Home and Homestead, for some more homemade, homegrown, and home-style inspiration. Well, I hope that you're having a wonderful day. See you next time. Take care.